Hi, good morning, and welcome to the B2W Inform Training webinar. Today we will be going through view reports, scheduling reports, and creating your own reports in the report manager. And so we'll get started here with our view reports. Within B2W Inform, I'm on our report viewer page here, and I have loaded up some sample form reports here. So we'll take a look at a few of these here. Within your own tenant, you will have at least 10 of these standardized reports here. And we'll take a look at what the reports do and how to interact with them at a view level. And then we'll move over into our report manager in the bottom right-hand corner here. If you don't see this report tab here, this is because it's a security-enabled part of the software. And further, if you do see it, but you don't see certain reports that you think you should be able to see, you can contact your administrator and they can go ahead and grant you access. So there is further permissions down to the report level as well. And for those of you as administrators, you can limit all the way down to the report level on this page here. So to start, I'm just going to start with this form summary report here. To run any of these reports, we're simply just going to click it. You will have this same report within your own system. Your results will look a little differently though, because it's going to be dependent on whatever is in your particular system here. So when I first run my report, we'll see the report in the center here. Left-hand side will be a window pane with our filters here. You can close and open this pane with these dots here. To use any of the filters, so our standard ones are template by the form owner, the form state, created month, and created date. Simply go ahead and select on these. So if I select any of these filters, we'll see the results get narrowed down here. To go ahead and export any of these reports, top left-hand corner. And there are 4 supported export types: Excel, PDF, RTF, and CSV. So if I want to go ahead and select that, it's going to run this report, download it for me, and then I can open this up. And this is just opening over here. So not keeping any of your data stuck within Inform, free to export and disseminate as you need to. So here's an example of this coming out in an Excel format here. Interacting with the reports in the center here. So top right to toggle between the pages. First arrow is to go a page at a time. Second set of arrows are to go to the beginning or the end. There's also a search in the top right-hand corner. So if I go ahead and start to type in here, we'll see my first result get highlighted in blue, and then the subsequent ones in this lighter red hue here. And as I tab through my pages, I can see these. I can also use the arrows to go one at a time here. This report here, this form summary report, so I'm going to go back to the beginning here, just a little bit about this. This is grouping all of the data collected within Inform by the template that it comes from. So each one of these breaks is per template here. And this will be a common design that you'll see throughout all of these form summary reports. Below that, we'll list 1 row per each form, along with some other information about these forms. So we have created on date, in this case, the form state, who the form owner is, so who that form filler was, and then a hyperlink straight to that particular form here. We'll see a lot of hyperlinks in these reports. There's a lot of different parts of Inform that have their own unique URLs within them. So this is a great template to start, a great report to start with, to take a look at all your templates and all the forms submitted against those. Taking a look at some other that are related to this, go ahead and add additional groupings to these. So we ran the form summary report. Let's say we wanted to take that a step further and we're going to go ahead and then look at this by maybe the date that it was submitted. So we can open this up, run this report. This one is also separated on the left-hand side by date. So if I click on any of these, if there are more than one for a particular date, they'd be listed beneath here. If I right-click on this, I'm going to start to see some additional options. So right-clicking within these reports are going to yield further commands that you can utilize here. So if I go expand all, I can then go ahead and expand all of these. If I were to export in this case, this would export with all of these already open. So for instance, if I export this to PDF, it'll automatically expand and fit as much as it can on one page before moving to the next there. So we can chunk that data up by date. We can do it by subgroup. Another very useful one is by template and by users, and then also by users and then by template as well. So a lot of different ways we can visualize the data within here. I'm going to navigate back to that first one just to show some additional controls that you'll have available to you and to all your users, that you can change the look, feel, add new filters, and this is all without affecting the base report, so to speak. So if I wanted to change some of the styling, say for these headers here, if I were to right click, I will see a pop-up, and I'll do it further down so you can see that in the center of the screen. We can see some formatting available for myself. So let's say we simply wanted to change the color, maybe make this bold, underline. I can come in here, say we go from normal, put that to bold. This will change this for all the headers. So Inform knows where you're selecting and will know related fields. So it knows all of these are headers, so it's going to make this change for all the headers. I can go ahead and change that. Maybe I wanted this to be a red background. I could go ahead and change that to a red hue too. In regards to data, I can do the same thing, and this is actually already completed here with these form states. So anything that's completed is in green, anything in draft or pending is in this lighter brown hue, anything rejected would show up in red there. Let's say I was just curious and I wanted to highlight my own name here. So I'm going to right click on the answer field, John. And what I can also do is instead of apply to all, what I can go ahead is, let's say I'm going to just highlight these in this, and say like a yellow color. And what I'm going to actually do is say all equal values. I could also use unequal, greater than, less than if I was related to a date. So now it's going to know simply who I selected, and it will go ahead and do that just for those particular individuals. If at any point I want to clear my options, top left, I can clear both columns because I can actually resize these as well. And I can additionally do clear all. That will bring me back to scratch for how this report started at. So no way to break this. If you did leave and come back in, it would reset that as well. Let's say I wanted to utilize a filter and it wasn't included in this left-hand pane here. So we actually could go ahead and we'll take draft for an example, even though there is a filter here, but let's say the designer forgot to put that in there. What I could do is right click on this and say, apply to equal values. And on the right-hand side, we'll see this filter icon. This will go ahead and add in under conditional filters, this one that I just created, so for draft here. So that's another useful way that end users can go ahead, manipulate the report, don't have to necessarily go back to an administrator to make some styling changes, add some additional formats, add some additional filters that may not have been included. In addition to information about your forms, we also have some reports in there you'll notice for your users and your templates. So our user summary report, we'll go ahead and run this. And this is going to look actually similar to the setup area, just in another format, easily exportable. It's going to be the users, their email addresses, business units, phone numbers, if they're registered, and if they're using a license or not. So this is actually a good way to get a handle on who's actually utilizing licenses and who is not. Another one, this one is actually a little more related to the form summary report, but this will be a total count of forms by users. And then let's take a look at our template reports here. So you'll have access to template detailed report, template summary report. I'm just going to run this high level one, and then we're going to move on over into the report manager here. But I just wanted to give you a intro into what some of the reports are that you'll currently find within your own systems here, and what some of their uses might be. And so here we have a version of that template summary report. So we see them all listed here. We see some admin type information, their ID numbers, who the owner is, if it's in a published or a draft state, the category it currently resides in, and some last modified dates and times. So I encourage you, come in here, poke around, take a look at these, explore those right-click options. Can't break anything at within these view reports here. All right, let's open up our report manager. When we first open up, we'll come to this welcome screen. So a little bit about our reporting is we do partner with Exago BI software. And we are a partner with them, and they work with us to deliver our reporting aspect of Inform here. So you might hear me refer to them as Exago, and some of the links we even send out are links to some of their own videos and tutorials as well. On the left-hand side, we have 4 different options here. So the top left, our first one is adding new reports. So there are 5 types of reports within here. There is advanced reports, which is what we'll go through towards the end of this session for creating our new reports. This is everything, all the bells and whistles within there. Express reports, this is great, especially if you're getting started too. It's a little bit like reporting with training wheels on. You lose some of the additional advanced functions, but it is a little easier to use. And instead of typing out some things like formulas and some sorts, a little more wizard based. Cross-tab report, I don't generally use too much. This is similar to a pivot table in Excel. So anytime you have data that's going to expand both with your columns and your rows at the same time, you could explore perhaps creating one in this style. And then the last 2 in here, chain report and dashboard report. These are reports that are to be consistent of other reports. So say I wanted to export several reports in a single PDF file, I could come down here and create a chain report and say, run my first report. When that's done, run my second report, so on and so forth until there's no more reports to run, and place them in a single, easily digestible file for me. Dashboard reports, these are going to be web-based interactive dashboards that I'm sure everybody has used before. And these are going to consist of multiple reports as well from the system. So this would let you drag and drop, create some tiles, and get them to display on the web screen at the same time here. Browse reports within your own environment. Currently, you'll probably just have this one folder, this metadata reports, and that consists of 4 folders. So forms, templates, user groups, users, and that's all the reports that we just went through here. So if you were to open that up further, you'd see the individual reports listed out here. If we have a particular report open, so I'm going to just open up this form summary report, which you all will have access to. That'll give us access to this 3rd option here, which is choosing our data. So within here, we see our fields, and this is all the available data fields that we'll drag and drop into our report, and that gives you a window into what's available for this current report. And the last option here is our report scheduler, which is what we'll go through right now. So right now, you could get started with this tool right away. You could schedule any of the reports that we had gone through, any of your metadata reports at this point. Not saying you can't schedule any reports, but that's what you'll have available now. This is just a view into what's currently scheduled. But a little more about the scheduled reports is, let's say you want to have any of those reports run on set date and time, we can go ahead and set that up. So say you need that form summary report every Monday morning, we can go ahead and deliver that. So you don't have to come within Inform, run these reports. Additionally, this is a great way to disseminate your information so that people who aren't even a part of Inform, you can put in external recipients here. They can have those delivered into their email inboxes at set intervals, and we can determine what those might be. To set a schedule for any report, so we're actually not going to do it in the managed schedule reports. We're going to do it on the individual report. And before I get started here, one thing you'll notice is as I start opening reports, and let's say I even were to run a report, on the top, we're going to see these tabs continue to open. And you'll see me as I work through here continually to close these up. You're not going to lose information here. It will prompt you to save if you haven't. Every time you run a report, it does automatically save too. So just as a little bit of housekeeping, you'll see me come through and close these up. So here's that pop-up I was referring to. Do you want to save? Don't. So what we're going to do, right-clicking on any report gives you a variety of options. So editing the report, running it, this would give you the same result as if you ran it from the view page. You can export from here as well. So just a lot of shortcuts, essentially. You could email this straight from here. And then to some other admin type things like renaming the report, creating a duplicate, deleting it, downloading it. So we're going to schedule this report. Additionally, as you work through the report manager, if you want to give yourself some more space, these panes on the left are collapsible. So once I have selected the report I want to schedule, I'm actually just going to click again on the browse report, and that will close that window and give me some more space to work with. So scheduled name, I'm going to type in Monday morning form report. Next, we're going to select how we wish to export this particular report. So those same four options: Excel, PDF, RTF, CSV. Some of these will additionally allow you to password protect that file. That is only available with certain exports, so Excel and PDF. Execute immediately. This would instantly run this report. I don't use this option too often, namely because if I want to execute one immediately and send it out to someone, an easier way to do that is to just right-click on your report, hit email report, and then just type in who you want to send that to. So that, I think, is just a more efficient way to do that. So next I'm going to do is pick my scheduled time. So I'm going to say maybe do a 7 a.m. run. I can type it in here. I also can click the clock icon and can select 7 a.m. If you want this to run more than once on a given day, we're going to select below. We can use this repeat every. So every hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, if you needed this to run continuously throughout the day. Below, we're going to set the recurrence pattern. And this is split up into a variety of different radio buttons on the left-hand side, ranging from one time all the way up to yearly. As I select these options, we're going to see different options on the right-hand side. So daily, if I want it every day, every other day, every third day, etc. Every weekday, can do that. Weekly, we'll see another set of options here. Same with monthly and yearly. So you can accommodate any type of recurrence that you would go ahead and need here. So in this example, I'm saying this is my Monday morning forms report. So I'm just going to select Monday, and I want to run every week. So I'm going to leave that at 1. At the bottom, we can set a range of recurrence. So I can go ahead and select a start date. So if I wanted it to start, maybe not immediately, but maybe I'm just getting ready for the summer season. Maybe I didn't want it to start till July. Next, we're going to go ahead and determine an end date. So if I just wanted it to run forever, we would go ahead and just select no end date. You can also end after a particular number of occurrences or end by a certain date. Maybe I want it to end in September. This first page, we're just setting when this report will run. If we didn't want to add any additional filters to anything else with this, we can actually skip this next tab. We don't ever really touch the batch tab here, so filters will be to limit the information on that report. But at this point, if you just wanted to set a schedule for any report, didn't need to touch anything else, just set when you wanted to run here, come to the recipient. We can type in our to column here. And I like to name the subject pretty close to what the schedule name is, just to keep things in check here. And then additionally, for some information below here. So this will be the body of our email. What I like to do is just give the user some information about the report. So specifically what the name of the report that's been scheduled, when it's set to run, and maybe there are some filters that had been added to it. I would indicate that now too. So maybe this is only a report for my supers, or maybe I've limited this to 1 week's worth of time. I might call that out at this point so that the users know exactly what they should be expecting to see within this report. At this point, I can hit finish. We'll get a pop-up confirming our report has been scheduled. If I now navigate over to manage scheduled reports, we'll see that set here. So we can see Monday morning forms report, what type it is, so it's weekly, what the report name is, so what report this was built off of, the last time this report ran, the next time it's set to run, if it's ready, if it's been completed, total times it's been run. So something that's been running for some time, like this top one here, we can see the last time it ran was 6-1, next time it's gonna run is 7-1, it's run 52 times thus far. If we need to make any changes to our scheduler, we can go ahead and hit this edit row button. And this will bring us back into the scheduler for this particular report. You can set as many schedules as you need to for any report. So not limited to just one. If you want to schedule some for a couple different instances of time or wanted to manipulate a little bit of the filters that are in there, definitely feel free to do that. There's no limit on that. All right, we'll take one more look at an additional feature within here. So I'm going to come into edit this particular scheduler. So the metadata reports that you'll all find within your own tenant, these are very open-ended reports. And what I mean by that, there are very few, if any, upfront filters on these reports. So they're going to run essentially from when you start collecting data and contain all the information over the course of time. For a report scheduler, for something like this, where maybe my Monday morning report, the purpose of that is to collect 1 week's worth of data, I'm probably going to want to limit some of this. And a couple trains of thoughts on how to do this. Some people would create their own one-off report to make a schedule from. I find it easier to use the filters within the report scheduler itself. That way you can have one base report and then build as many schedules off that as you need to. That way you have one report that you're making edits to. And it makes just managing these reports a little easier. So if I wanted to do something like limit the amount of data returned for any such scheduled report, we'll go to this second tab here. So just as a refresher of how I got here, if I were starting a new report, I would right click and just hit schedule. And we're just going to start from the one we use. I'm going to hit edit row from the report schedule manager here. And I'm just going to go to the second tab. I'm going to leave everything the same. I'm going to go to filters here. In the middle is my filter pane where we're going to add our fields to. Left-hand side are the available fields that I can filter on. So this case, this is all metadata fields, which is the basis of all these metadata reports. Again, this is information that's collected behind the scenes. We've seen this in the alerting area, and we've seen this when we were designing our template. When you use that auto-populate component, one of the options for auto-populating are these metadata fields that we're seeing on the left-hand side here. So an easy field that we can go ahead and start to filter off of could be just this owner field. Maybe I'm going to set this up for particular users. So I only want to see particular form owners on this report. I'm going to pull this in here. So we'll see form owner. At the bottom here, we're going to see our different operators for this. So equal to is not one of, a lot of different things in here. So what I'm going to do is actually equal to, but is one of, and then this field right here, I could type into. I also can hit this drop down list, and I'll see a list of anyone who's ever submitted a form in this case. So I'm just going to pick off who I want to be included, and maybe this is the team that I manage, are these 4 employees. So I don't care about everybody else's forms on my Monday report. I just want to see what these 4 have been up to. And I could leave it as simple as this. I could then hit finish. Now when this report runs, looking at that base report, but only delivering to me these 4 users here. Let's say I only wanted to see the last week's worth of data. I'm going to grab this created on date, add this in here too. So you can have more than one filter for these. To make things easy, I'm just going to work with one at a time. So I'm going to delete that first one here so I can see my forms created on. In this case, a lot of people are going to want to use equal to. What I'm actually going to use is greater than, maybe even greater than or equal to. Because I don't want an exact date. I'm going to make a moving window of time in this next step here. So again, you could type in a date here. You could use your calendar to pick a date. This is a list of all the dates that have been submitted. Really what I'm going to want to use though is this function here. And this is going to list out just some common denominations of dates. So today, tomorrow, yesterday, plus 7 days, minus 7 days, first day of the week, last day of the week. What I'm going to grab is Monday of last week. And we'll see it automatically put a date in here. If we look at the bottom under the form summary though, this is what I like to read for my double check. So really what I've said is, so I've pulled in the created on, and I've said any date that's greater than or equal to, and I know this reads 6/15, but I know I used this operator here under this function, Monday of last week. So now any forms that are greater than or equal to Monday of last week will be included on this particular report. Next week, when I were to look at this, we'd actually wouldn't see 6/15 here. We'd go ahead and see, what was last Monday? 6/22. So this will create a moving window of time. So you can set this scheduler up, set this Monday of last week, could be Friday of last week, whatever that time might need to be, and not have to check it again. So every Monday you'll get the previous week's worth of data. A lot of different varieties, a lot of different variations you can select here, so you can accommodate any window of time that you would need to here. And then again, we would just hit finish. If I were creating this for someone else, I would add that note in maybe the recipient's email message. This contains all data from 12 a.m. of last Monday to 12 a.m. of this Monday, something along those lines. Any questions on the report scheduled filters? We can take those at this time. If not, then we're going to take a look at actually building out our report from scratch. All right. So I'm going to open up 2 examples that I've created here, even though we've already seen a few here. So this is in my design view. We're going to start with just creating just a tabular report such as this one in Nature. So pretty straightforward, just grabbing 1 row per each form based off these incident investigations. And then as we continue on, we'll take a look at perhaps adding charts, adding some formatting to these, but we'll just start with these here to get to this point. So what we're going to do when we want to start a new report is hit this plus icon on the top. You also can right-click on any of the folders you want this to be added to, and you can also add a new report from here too. So same options here. So I'm going to select an advanced report. First step is going to ask me to enter a report name and select the folder I want to add this to. These are fully searchable. At the bottom, we can add a description for the report as well. We're going to walk through this wizard. You can either tap through the top tabs here. You can also use the previous and the next at the bottom here. Next, we're going to select our categories. So you'll see 3 categories in yours. There'll be the B2W ops, which will be a list of all the information from the same list that you'd have for data binding your answer list. So those job names, employee names, that basically that resource area of your B2W operations area here. We'll also have the metadata here. This is what your current reports are built off of. So that's split into forms, templates, user groups, users, workflow history. And then the inform folder, this will be a list of all of the templates within your system here. So essentially though, what is a category? A category is a grouping of similar fields together. So when I add a category in, it will pull in all related fields to that category. So for instance, if I grab the forms metadata category, and I'm going to just pull it in on the right here, this will add in, and to give you just a window into it, we're going to skip to sorts and we'll come back, the following fields on the left. So these are all of our forms metadata fields, and you can create a report off any of these. General rule of thumb, start with the least amount of categories you think you'll need, and then build up from there. And that'll just ensure for the cleanest reporting. Within the inform folder, so I mentioned this is a list of all of the templates that you will have. What we can do here, we can also search here. So I'm just gonna start to filter in here. Let's take this training incident investigation one here. And we'll back to that actually. Here we go. Within any of these, we're going to grab the top level one. It's going to be named the same as your template. That category is going to have 90% of all the fields you're going to need to use there. The other categories that you might see in that folder will be things like a table component or a media upload component. And those are going to store separately your table answers, your photo answers. You additionally will see your drop-down lists in there, and that's just for some advanced features you might use down the road for some advanced sorting and filtering. But back to that first point, start small and build your way up. So I usually start with just one category and then continue through the wizard. So I grabbed that training incident investigation category, and on the left-hand side, what we're going to see here is the unique names that are held within that template. So things like nature of injury, state, incident type, form name, these are all questions that are asked there, all your different components. Additionally, you'll see some metadata fields that we find are useful just to have in there, such as some user information of who filled it out, the form state, some template information as well. These next 3 tabs are actually optional at this point. You can hit finish once you decide what category you wish to use, which is what I do a lot of the time, but I'll walk you through what these other ones are. So sort, if you already know how you want to sort your data, so maybe alphabetically by user who submitted it or date time submitted, you could add that sort in now and say created on. So sort these created on in ascending order. So newest to oldest, oldest to newest. You could set that up at this point. Same with filters. If I already knew certain filters that I wanted to have on this report, I could add those in here now. So same process, we just did that with the report scheduler. So I could come in here and say, maybe I only want forms in a certain state. I could come down here and say equal, well, just show me those completed forms. I don't care about the draft ones. If you know what they are ahead of time, you can set them up here. If you don't, we can always come back and make changes to these. So to clear any of these out too, just come back, hit this X icon. This layout button, this can come in handy too if you already have in your head an idea of what field you're going to want to use. You can go ahead and drag and drop these in. We'll start to see a preview down below here as I start to pull these in, and we'll start to see a preview of this report. This is, so just to kind of full circle here, if I were to build an Express report, this is almost as far as the Express report goes with a few more summary options here. So this is why I wanted to go through advanced reports, because this is almost the extent of that Express report. So it's very useful if you already have your idea. You can get your preview down below, very user-friendly. But I want to show us some more advanced functions today. And then we'll hit finish, and that'll pull us into our report. I'll hit finish here. At this point, we can see the fields I pulled in. I can hit run report at this point. And I know this isn't the most beautiful report at this juncture, but just wanted to show you how quickly you can actually go ahead and get some data out here. So those are very quick steps here. We can see form ID, the type of incident, who the employee was, the state, template name. And I can come back in here. So every time I run, it will open in a new tab to the left. I'm actually going to just clean some of these up a little bit. And I can come in here and change these off their unique names. So that's what's displayed here, the unique name that we added in the design of the template stage. And start to split these up a little bit. I can go ahead and you'll notice this is a grid. This is going to be very similar in some regards to working in Excel and just kind of the general layout here. So give everything a little more room. We'll run that again. And we can start to see a more digestible result here. What I'm going to do now is I did set some of this up ahead of time here. So we're going to take a look at some of this data in this one here. So what I'm going to do, let's open this up. So we see our fields here. So this is a list of all of the fields that have been collected. Let's say I wanted to add some new ones from my design here. I'm going to right click and I can add a column after, I can add columns before. And what I'm going to do is just go ahead and drag and drop. I can type static text in as well. If I wanted to have the same format, a lot of same things you're used to using in some other programs. So format paintbrush, we'll just copy that. And let's go ahead and run this report again. So just adding a column, dragging and dropping new data in. You can use this same methodology for any of the reports we've already created for you, adding in additional fields you think you might need. And again, just going to clean this up as I go here. On the left-hand side, I like to bring attention now to our different sections within Inform. So we see our columns as we'd expect, A through Z, our rows as we'd expect, going numerically here. And to the left of that, we see this area called sections. Sections decide where these rows are going to appear. And what I mean by that is think of these sections as they're just different parts of your page. Think about if you were to annotate on the side of a report that was printed out. So just take, for instance, we'll run this one again. Where's the report header? So that might be right here. Where is the page header? And maybe that's right here. So this is top of every page. We have our different column headers here. And then at the bottom, we might see page footer. Think of it almost like a sandwich in a sense. And so we see page header here. That is going to be for the first 5 rows. So the first 5 rows in here are always going to appear at the top of every page. The detail section, this is the meat and potatoes of your report. In this case, and in a lot of reports, it's going to be 1 row per form submitted, and that's how that is here. So we see 1 row for each one of these forms that have been submitted here. To add or remove sections, just click on here. Doesn't even have to be a right click. This is all of our section information here. Other sections that are available that we're not currently looking at, report header. So page header is going to be on the top of each page. Report header, 1 time, so at the very beginning of every report. The opposite of these, so report footer, very end of the report. This might be a chart, some summary information. Page footer, bottom of every page. So that could be things like date, time stamps, page number. Detail section already in here. You can only have 1 detail section. And that's where we're most of the time adding these fields from our templates here. And then the last 2 that we'll look at here are group headers and group footers. So this is if we just want to start to group our information into meaningful chunks. Similarly to how we looked at those metadata reports, and I ran the form summary report, and that had no sections at all. And then we ran the one that was by date, and we ran one that was by user. And all we've done in that case is add in a group header and said, okay, take this report a step further, and besides just data dumping it all, group it maybe by job, or maybe group it by the incident type. That's where we would utilize those. And that's where we'll build to next, which would be what this report will be. So just to save us a little time here, is building out different sections. So I'm going to run this report, and then I'll talk about how we got there. And so this has a couple more sections. So again, we see the same thing at the top for our page headers, but now we see the same data as before. So same report, but I just put in a little formatting, and I grouped it by job. So now we're splitting everything out by job. Doesn't necessarily have to be by job. Could have done this by state, injury, point being getting these splits in the data here. At the very end, once we have this and we have our totals, we can then go ahead and place all of this into a chart at the end of the report. And this chart is just looking at each one of those sections in there. So give me the total for the 99 Bow section for the Elm Street, all coming from the jobs here. How we got there was by adding these 3 sections on the side here. So adding a group header for our job, adding a group footer to count our jobs, and then adding a report footer to take all the data in the report and summarize it into this chart here. Let's take a walk through the steps of how we got from this report over to this report here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this gear icon in the top left, and I'm going to go back to my sorts. So I said we'd come back here. Say I didn't add any sorts from the beginning. This is where I would come in and add one now. So I'm going to delete that out and show you how I got there. So we can sort on any of the fields. My example was by date. So in this case, though, we're going to sort by the project that was selected. So I'm going to hit OK. And that first step, without that, we wouldn't see all of these jobs grouped together. We would just kind of see them in whatever order they came into. So now taking a look at this report, we can see this is already actually kind of chunked up into different sections naturally by sorting this data. But to really drive that point home, we're going to give a section. So I'm going to click in this section area, it doesn't matter which one, and I'm going to say I want to add a section and I want to add a group. And I want a group on job. At this point, we're going to open up the group header. This text below, this is just explaining really everything we're talking about here. We'll see the data categories. What we're really looking for is sort field. If I opened this up and I hadn't specified a sort field, I'd actually get a message saying, hey, you need to go into your sorts and pick how you want us to group this data so we know what to put in this group header. So it's a little bit of order of operations, but it will catch that there for you. So first step is adding that sort, checking it. Next, we're going to add this group header, and we're just going to see a new row get inserted here for this section. And all I'm really going to do here is right here, I see my job site. It's already on my report. I could just drag this above, but I could add it again too. So what I'm saying here is for this section, display the first unique job site. What I'm going to do here, I highlighted, all I'm doing is just creating this into one neat row. And just to really drive this point home too, we're just going to add some different colors so we can start to see these sections really stand out. So all I did there was add that sort, then I specified a section and changed some formatting. So now we can very neatly see where these different jobs are. My next step might be to actually get rid of this whole second column. Because I'm already grouping by it, it's a lot of duplicate information here. So a lot of times once I do that, I actually come in and I might just delete this column. I'll run this again just to take a look. And so now it's freeing up some information left and right. And we don't need to see the redundant information we saw here. From there, I might add the converse. So I'm going to add a new section, and I'm going to add a group footer, and I'm going to make it for that same sort field. So for that job. And now within here, maybe we're going to add a count for how many jobs had incidents on them. So I'm going to type in just some static text. You can type in static text anywhere you like in these reports. So total incidents. So we're going to assume one incident per form. And what I'm going to do is right click and insert a formula. Within here is where a lot of the advanced functions within our reporting engine come into play here, is within this formula editor. They're grouped on the right-hand side from aggregate to operators. This is similar to typing out a formula in Excel. So if you wanted to say ag sum, add count, things along those lines. So sum things, count things. So what I'm going to do, select one, it'll give us some help text on it. So it's going to count the unique rows. So I'm going to want to use this. So I say ag count. Then it's going to say, well, what field do you want to count? It gives me a list of my fields available on the left. And in this example, I'm just going to count each unique form ID. So every form has a unique ID. And in this example, I know one form equals one incident. So I'm just saying count all the form ID. I put this in the footer for the job. So now it knows to count these for each job. I'm going to highlight this as well just to make this stand out. And we'll run this report. So now we'll see this section for each one of the jobs here. 1, 7, 13, 3, 3, 1, all the way through. Let's say we wanted a total of all incidents. I'm going to do a report footer. So now we see that here. I'm just going to give this a little extra room. And to demonstrate just one of the key features in Exago here too, I can use this same formula. So I'm just going to copy and paste this. And we'll call this actually total incidents per job. Let's call this total incidents. And I'm actually going to lighten that up. red text here. Depending on where your formula is in Exaco, it knows how to count it. So these two formulas are the same. Because they're in different sections, this one is in a group section, this one is in a report section, it knows what to count. So because this formula is in the group footer for our job, it knows to count it per job. Because the same formula is in the report footer, it knows to count for the entire report. So I can use the same formula and I can receive different results here. So we can see 777 at the bottom, total incidents, 32 incidents here. The last step we might want to take to go ahead and display this as a chart, I'm going to add a new row. So insert rows after. I'm actually going to, again, join all these cells to make this a little easier. I'm going to enlarge this. And what I'm going to do is insert a chart. So charts always get added to the report footer. Think of it this way. It's looking at all the data above it and then aggregating it into the chart at the bottom. First step, just to pick what type of chart you want. Next, it's going to say what data is going in the chart. I'm just going to focus on these key fields you'd need in this case to get something out. So what are the labels? Again, this might look a little overwhelming at first, but this is exactly the same setup on the left. It's just kind of a sandwich of what your report is. So the section header here is this section header here. Our details just all the particular details from this area. Footer is the same as this footer, report footer. So same thing that's set up here. So it's just asking, what are the labels on this report going to be? Well, this is a report for our job. So I want the job section. And how am I going to calculate what to display for each bar? Well, I want the count per job. So I'm going to go to the footer and get the ag count from the job project name. I'm going to skip the rest because it's not necessary. The rest is just for formatting, appearance, etc. We'll go to the preview at the end. I'm going to say fit to, I'll give it a specific size. I know generally 500 by 750 fits nicely. We'll hit finish. We'll see a preview here. I'm going to run this report. And this should get kicked to the second page. So go to the second page. And now I can see the jobs with their totals. A great way to play with appearance without using the editor. Again, those right-click options. End users from their view report page can use the same thing. I can actually change my different chart types on the fly here. Let's give that actually a little more room here. And we'll rerun this. I just cut my report off there, so let's take a better look at this here. There we go. So now we can see it all. I can change colors, themes, different sorts as well. So this is a great way to manipulate your data from here without having to use the editor and then go in and make your permanent changes. All right. Thanks for taking the time, everybody, today. If you have any questions, you can follow up with our support team. Anything more detailed, they can forward along to us. Thanks for joining us and have a great morning.